When my daughter Emma told me to pack my things and get out of my own home, I felt my world crumble. 3 days later, I was sitting across from our family lawyer, Mr. Peterson, when he started laughing. Emma was about to discover that her father was much smarter than she thought. I'll tell you everything. First, let me thank you for watching Granny's Voice. Please subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Today's special shout out goes to Deborah Burrow. Thanks for the super thanks. Thank you for being part of our family. Well, let me share how I went from a homeless mother to the woman who taught her daughter the most expensive lesson of her life. This story has more surprises than a birthday party. 3 months ago, I was Helen Rodriguez, a 69-year-old widow who had just lost my husband Carlos after 45 years of marriage. Carlos owned several restaurants around town and had always been the money person in our family. When he passed from cancer, Emma rushed over with fake tears and phony hugs. "Mom, you poor thing," she whispered while checking her phone. "This house is way too big for you now. All these stairs and rooms to clean. You should think about moving somewhere smaller and easier to manage." I should have noticed how her eyes kept looking around our home like she was measuring furniture. Emma had always been Carlos's favorite child. His little angel who never made mistakes. When she married that lawyer Tom and gave us 3 grandkids, Carlos would brag to everyone about his successful daughter. Meanwhile, I was just the wife who made sure everyone was fed and happy. After the funeral, Emma started visiting every single day with her husband Tom, always carrying folders and papers about senior homes and apartments. "Mom, look at this beautiful place," she would say, showing me pictures of tiny rooms and shared dining halls. "They have bingo nights and movie afternoons. You would make so many friends your age." What she really meant was that she wanted me out of the way so she could claim what she thought was hers. The final attack came on a rainy Tuesday morning. Emma showed up with Tom and 2 big suitcases, marching into my kitchen like she owned the place. "Mom, we have exciting news. Tom got offered a big promotion at his law firm, and we need to move closer to the city. This house is perfect for our growing family." I looked at her confused. "Move closer, but this is my home, Emma. Where am I supposed to live?" Emma's sweet mask fell away, showing the cold person underneath. "Actually, Mom, Dad left everything to me in his will. The house, the restaurants, all the money. I have been letting you stay here because I felt sorry for you, but now we need the space." The words hit me like a truck. "Emma, there must be some mistake. Your father would never leave me with nothing." "There's no mistake, Mom. Dad knew I could handle the business better than you. You never understood anything about money or running restaurants. You were just the cook and cleaner. Just the cook and cleaner." After 45 years of marriage, that's what my life meant to my own daughter. Then she said the words that broke my heart completely. "Find somewhere else to live. You're useless now and we don't need you taking up space." I packed my things that very day. 45 years of memories stuffed into 3 old suitcases and 1 cardboard box of photos. Emma stood in the doorway tapping her foot like I was taking too long to disappear from her life. "There's a nice apartment building on Oak Street," she said without any feeling in her voice. "Very cheap rent. I'm sure they have openings for someone like you. Someone like me. An old woman with no money and no family who cared about her." Tom carried my bags to their fancy car like he was throwing out trash. "Helen, you're going to love having your own space," he lied, not looking at my face. No more worrying about house repairs or cooking big meals. No more home, he meant. As we drove away, I watched my house disappear behind the trees. The same house where I had raised Emma, nursed Carlos through his sickness, and hosted every family holiday for decades. Now I was being dropped off at a cheap motel like an unwanted pet. The Moonlight Motel was exactly what you would expect for $30 a night. Stained carpet, broken air conditioning, and walls so thin I could hear every sound from the rooms next door. Emma handed me $100 in cash like she was giving money to a homeless person. "This should help you get started," she said. "Tom will send you some money once we figure out Dad's business accounts." Some money from what I thought was my own inheritance. After they drove away, I sat on the lumpy bed and tried to understand what had happened to my life. In just 4 hours, I had gone from a grieving wife to a homeless mother. The daughter I had loved and sacrificed for had thrown me away like garbage. But as I sat in that horrible room, something started bothering me. Carlos had always been very careful about important papers, keeping everything organized in his desk. He had shown me our will many years ago, explaining what would happen if something happened to him. Carlos had been many things during our marriage. Sometimes he was too focused on work, and he could be stubborn about changing his mind. But he was never mean or cruel. The man who brought me flowers every week, who held me when my mother died, who told me he loved me every single day, would never leave me on the street. The next morning, I used the motel's old computer to find our lawyer's office. Mr. Peterson had handled our business for 20 years, helping us buy our first restaurant and our house. His office was downtown, just a bus ride away that cost me $5 precious, but I had to know the truth. Mr. Peterson was a kind man in his 60s with gentle eyes and a warm smile. When his secretary told him Mrs. Rodriguez was here about her husband's will, he looked very surprised. "Helen, my dear friend, I have been trying to call you for weeks. I even went to your house, but Emma said you were visiting family in another state." Visiting family. That's what Emma had told him while she was stealing my home. "Mr. Peterson, I need to ask you about Carlos's will." He looked confused. "Of course, didn't Emma give you your copy?" "I gave her several copies after we read it together." My heart sank. There was a will reading. "Helen, you were supposed to be there. Emma said you were too sick and sad to come, so she would take care of everything and make sure you got what Carlos left you." The truth hit me like lightning. "Mr. Peterson, Emma never told me about any will reading. She told me that Carlos left everything to her and that I got nothing." Mr. Peterson's face went from confused to angry very quickly. He pulled out a thick folder from his desk. "Helen, that's impossible. Carlos's will is very clear about your inheritance." He opened the document and I could see Carlos's signature at the bottom, official and legal. "I, Carlos Miguel Rodriguez, being healthy in mind and body, leave to my beloved wife Helen Maria Rodriguez the following: our home at 425 Pine Street with everything inside it. Also, I leave her 60% of all money, businesses, and investments, which equals about $15 million. My brain stopped working. $15 million. The house. 60% of everything. Mr. Peterson kept reading, his voice getting more serious. "To my daughter Emma Rodriguez Miller, I leave 40% of all assets, about $10 million, but only if she takes good care of her mother after I die. Only if she takes good care of me." Carlos had known. Somehow my smart husband had known exactly what Emma might try to do. "Mr. Peterson," I whispered, "Emma told me I inherited nothing. She made me leave my own house. She gave me $100 and told me to find somewhere else to die." The lawyer's face turned red with anger. "Helen, what Emma has done is called elder abuse and stealing. She has broken serious laws, and she showed you fake papers or lied about what the real will said. Carlos changed his will just 2 months before he died, specifically because he was worried about Emma's behavior and how she treated you." The room felt like it was spinning around me. All those times Emma had interrupted me during family dinners, rolled her eyes when I tried to join conversations about the restaurants, or acted like my opinions didn't matter. Carlos had been watching everything. "There's something else, Helen. The will says that if Emma fails to treat you with love and respect after Carlos dies, her entire $10 million comes to you instead." I stared at him in shock. "Are you saying Emma just lost her inheritance?" "I'm saying your daughter just cost herself $10 million by being cruel to you. You're not getting $15 million, Helen. You're getting $25 million plus the house and restaurants." The irony was so perfect it almost made me laugh. Emma had been so greedy to steal my money that she had lost her own money too. "What do I do now?" I asked, my voice shaking. Mr. Peterson smiled, and for the first time since Carlos died, someone was being truly kind to me. "Now, Helen, we call the police about the stealing and lying. Then we call Emma and tell her that her greed just backfired in the worst way possible. Can she fight this in court? With what money?" She's about to learn that every bank account she thought she could use actually belongs to you. Every business, every investment, everything except the house is now frozen while we investigate her crimes. I thought about Emma in my house, probably already planning to change everything, shopping for new furniture with money she thought was hers. Tom was probably calculating how this inheritance would help his career. They had no idea that in just a few hours, their whole world was going to fall apart. Mr. Peterson's office became like mission control for what he jokingly called Operation Justice. He called the police, the banks, and a private detective while I sat in his leather chair, still trying to believe this was really happening. The fake papers Emma showed you are very well made, Detective Williams explained as she looked at the forged documents. This wasn't something she did quickly. Someone planned this very carefully. You think Emma had help? Yes. Almost certainly. Making fake legal papers requires special knowledge and connections. We need to investigate whether Tom or someone from his law firm helped her. Within 3 hours, every bank account was locked. Emma's credit cards that were connected to what she thought were her accounts stopped working. The house utilities that she had already put in her name were shut off while they checked who really owned the house. My phone rang at exactly 4:15 in the afternoon. Emma's name appeared on the screen. Mom, where are you? Something weird is happening with the bank accounts. They're saying Dad's money is frozen and they won't tell me why. Hello, Emma. I'm sitting in Mr. Peterson's office. You remember him, right? Dad's lawyer who read the real will to an empty room while you told him I was visiting family. Long silence. Then, Mom, I don't know what you think you found out, but I was protecting you from having to deal with complicated money stuff. You never understood business or investments. I understand perfectly, Emma. I understand that you're a liar and a thief. I also understand that your father was much smarter than both of us thought. You don't understand, I was trying to help you by handling everything. You could have gotten confused and made bad choices with all that money. I understand that you threw your 69-year-old mother out of her own house because you thought I was too stupid to notice. Emma's voice changed from fake sweetness to sharp panic. Mom, you're confused. The sadness from losing Dad is making you think things that aren't true. Someone is obviously taking advantage of you. The nerve was incredible. Even after being caught stealing, Emma was still trying to make me think I was crazy. Emma, let me clear something up for you. Not only did you never inherit anything, but your real inheritance of $10 million is now mine too, thanks to a special part of the will about treating me with respect. That's not possible. Detective Williams is here if you want to talk about how impossible stealing is. The phone went quiet. I could almost hear Emma's brain working, trying to find a way out of trouble. Mom, please, can we meet somewhere and talk about this like adults? I'm sure we can figure this out together. We will definitely be meeting soon at the courthouse when you're arrested. You wouldn't dare call the police on your own daughter. Something cold and final settled in my chest. Watch me, Emma. I hung up and looked at Mr. Peterson, who was smiling with approval. How long before she gets arrested? Detective Williams has enough proof for an arrest warrant. They'll pick her up tonight. What about Tom? His law office records are being checked. If he helped create those fake papers, he'll be arrested too. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Mom, please don't do this. Think about your grandchildren. I showed the message to Detective Williams, who shook her head, trying to use guilt and family pressure. That's typical behavior for this kind of crime. I typed back, I am thinking about them. They need to learn what happens when you steal from family. 30 minutes later, Tom called. Helen, surely we can work this out without involving the police. Emma made some bad choices, but calling the cops seems too harsh. Tom, did you help her make those fake legal papers? That's not the point, Helen. You have to understand the pressure Emma was under. She was worried about your mental health and your ability to handle large amounts of money. So that's a yes. It wasn't done to hurt you. She really believed she was protecting you from making mistakes. By throwing me out of my own house and telling me to find somewhere else to die. Tom was quiet. Tom, here's what's going to happen. You're both going to be arrested. You're both going to face serious charges for stealing. And I'm going to be sitting in my house, watching it all happen. Helen, please be reasonable. I was reasonable for 45 years, Tom. It didn't work out well for me. The police arrested Emma at 7 o'clock that evening while she was having dinner at Romano's, apparently celebrating her inheritance with Tom and another couple. According to Detective Williams, she screamed about this being a mistake and demanded to call her lawyer, who turned out to be Tom's golf friend with no experience in criminal cases. Tom was arrested at his law office the next morning. The computer expert had found that the fake documents came from a printing company that Tom's law firm used regularly. Apparently, my son-in-law had quite a history of creating false papers that Emma either didn't know about or chose to ignore. I spent my first night back in my own house sleeping in the master bedroom. Emma had already moved her stuff into the room, replacing Carlos's organized drawers with her mess of expensive clothes and makeup. I packed everything into trash bags and put them on the front porch. She could pick them up when she got out of jail. The house felt different now, not because Carlos was gone, but because I was finally seeing it as truly mine. For decades, I had kept it exactly the way Carlos wanted, arranged around his preferences and his ideas of how we should live. Now, looking around with new eyes, I realized how little of my own personality had ever been shown in these rooms. That was about to change completely. Mr. Peterson called around noon with updates. Emma's bail is set at $75,000. Since all her accounts are frozen, she'll need someone else to pay it. What about Tom? $150,000. The judge wasn't impressed with his history of document crimes. Who knew your son-in-law had been investigated before for creating fake contracts? I certainly didn't know. But then again, I had been left out of most family business discussions. Emma and Tom had always talked to me like I was a child when money came up, explaining things like I couldn't understand basic ideas. They were about to learn how much I actually understood about everything. Mr. Peterson, I want to make some changes to the house. Emma had workers scheduled to remodel. I'd like to continue with some of those plans, but make them my own way. Excellent idea, Helen. It's your home now. Do whatever makes you happy. What made me happy was the thought of fixing every assumption Emma had made about my inheritance. She had planned to tear out the kitchen, replace the hardwood floors, and turn Carlos's office into a wine storage room. I was going to keep the kitchen exactly as it was, refinish the beautiful floors, and turn the office into a craft room where I could pursue my love of quilting and painting. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Rodriguez, this is Amanda Foster from Channel 5 News. We understand you're the victim of a major family theft case involving your daughter. Would you be willing to tell your story on television? Word was spreading. In a town this size, the arrest of a prominent lawyer and his wife for stealing from his elderly mother-in-law was big news. Miss Foster, I'm not ready to talk publicly yet. I understand this must be difficult, but your story could help other seniors recognize when family members are trying to take advantage of them. She had a good point. How many other older women were being tricked by adult children who saw them as obstacles to getting money? If I decided to share my story, could I control how it's told? Absolutely. We could do a sit-down interview where you'd have approval over the final version before it airs. I thought about Emma, probably sitting in a jail cell right now, still believing this was all a big misunderstanding that she could charm her way out of. Miss Foster, let me think about it. I might have quite a story to tell. After hanging up, I poured myself a glass of the expensive wine Tom had given us for Christmas, wine that I was apparently drinking in my own house, paid for with my own money, while considering whether to publicly embarrass my daughter on television. Life had certainly taken an interesting turn. The doorbell rang at 8 in the morning. Through the window, I could see Emma on my front porch wearing the same clothes from yesterday and looking like she had aged 10 years overnight. She had somehow made bail. I opened the door but didn't let her come inside. Mom, please. We need to talk. We talked yesterday, Emma. You told me to find somewhere else to die. I found somewhere to live instead. Emma's eyes were red and puffy. Her usual perfect appearance was completely ruined. I made terrible mistakes, Mom. Horrible mistakes. But I'm still your daughter. Are you, Emma? Because daughters don't usually create fake legal papers to steal their mother's inheritance. I wasn't stealing, I was trying to. She stopped, clearly struggling to find words that didn't sound like crimes. You were trying to what, Emma? I was trying to protect you from making poor money decisions. You've never handled large amounts of money before. Even now, even after being arrested for stealing, she couldn't admit the truth. In Emma's mind, she was still the victim of my unreasonable expectations. Emma, let me share something your father told me 6 months before he died. He said he was worried about your sense of entitlement, your attitude toward money, and how you treated people you thought were beneath you. Her face went white. Dad never said that. He said you reminded him of his sister Rebecca. Beautiful, charming, and completely unable to think about anyone but yourself. He told me he was changing the will specifically because he was afraid of what you'd do to me. That's a lie. I pulled out my phone and showed her a video recording. Actually, it's not. Your father recorded a video message explaining his decisions to be played if you ever tried to contest the will or treated me badly after he died. Emma stared at the phone like it was a dangerous snake. He knew, sweetheart. He knew exactly who you were underneath all that fake charm. The only thing he didn't predict was how far you'd actually go. Play it, she whispered. I touched the screen and Carlos's voice filled the morning air. Clear, calm, and absolutely devastating. If you're hearing this, Emma, it means my fears about your character were correct. I hoped I was wrong. I hoped my daughter had more integrity than I suspected. But if Helen is playing this recording, it means you've proven me right in the worst possible way. Emma collapsed onto the porch steps as Carlos's voice continued. I spent 45 years watching your mother give up her dreams, her goals, her independence to take care of our family. She worked night shifts at the diner to help pay for your college while I built our restaurant business. She delayed her own education, gave up job opportunities, and devoted herself to being the wife and mother she thought we needed. The recording went on for 4 more minutes, each word carefully chosen, each sentence cutting through Emma's excuses and self-deceptions. By the time you hear this, you'll have learned that being cruel to your mother has cost you everything. I hope it was worth it. When it ended, Emma was sobbing. Not the pretty tears she had used to manipulate people since childhood, but ugly, heartbroken cries. He hated me, she whispered. No, Emma. He loved you enough to hope you'd prove him wrong. You chose to prove him right instead. She looked up at me with mascara streaming down her cheeks. What happens now? Now you face the consequences of your actions. The criminal charges, the investigation, the public embarrassment when this story gets on the news. The news, Emma's face crumpled even more. Mom, please think about what this will do to my children, to Tom's career, to our entire family. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about how you didn't consider any of those things when you decided to commit multiple crimes. She stood up slowly, looking older and more defeated than I'd ever seen her. I know you won't believe this, but I never meant for it to go this far. I just wanted the money. I wanted the security, the status. I wanted to never have to worry about anything again. For the first time since this nightmare started, Emma was telling the truth. I believe you, sweetheart, but wanting something doesn't make it okay to destroy people to get it. She nodded, tears still falling. What can I do to make this right? You can start by admitting what you did was wrong. Not misguided, not protective, not complicated. Well, it was wrong. It was completely and totally wrong. And then you can face whatever punishment comes next with some dignity instead of trying to lie your way out of it. Emma looked at me for a long moment, seeing maybe for the first time not the pushover mother she had always known, but the woman who had just completely outsmarted her. I deserve this punishment, don't I? Yes, Emma. You absolutely do. 4 days after Emma's confession on my porch, Tom's mother showed up at my door. Patricia Miller was everything I expected. Perfectly dressed, covered in expensive jewelry, and radiating the kind of arrogance that only comes from generations of inherited wealth. Helen, we need to discuss this situation like reasonable adults. I invited her in, curious to see what version of reality the Miller family had created to explain their son's criminal charges. Patricia sat in my living room like she was doing me a favor by being there. Tom made some poor decisions, obviously, but prosecuting him seems rather vengeful, don't you think? Vengeful. Your son helped steal my inheritance and kicked me out of my own house. Tom was following Emma's instructions. He didn't understand the complete situation. The woman was actually trying to blame my daughter for her son's crimes. I had to respect the boldness. Mrs. Miller, Tom created fake legal documents. That's not following instructions. That's conspiracy to commit a serious crime. Tom's attorney believes we can reach an agreement that helps everyone. You get your house back. Emma faces appropriate consequences. And Tom avoids the publicity of a trial. Appropriate consequences. As if Emma's crimes were a minor social mistake. What kind of agreement? Patricia smiled, clearly thinking she had found my weakness. Tom's family is prepared to compensate you for your trouble. Let's say $3 million in exchange for dropping the charges against Tom. $3 million to forgive the man who had helped steal $25 million from me. Mrs. Miller, your son participated in a scheme that cost me everything I owned. You think $3 million covers that? Helen, be practical. Tom has a career, children, a reputation to protect. Sending him to prison helps no one. Helps justice, Patricia. Patricia's polished mask slipped slightly. Justice. You're destroying multiple families over money you never would have known how to handle anyway. There it was, the same condescending attitude that had poisoned my relationship with Emma. In their world, I was just the help who had gotten uppity. Mrs. Miller, I think we're done here. Helen, please reconsider. $5 million. Final offer. $5 million to let Tom walk away free. The amount was huge, but the principle was non-negotiable. My answer is no. Patricia stood, her composure completely restored. Very well. But you should know that Tom's legal team has found some interesting information about your husband's business practices. It would be unfortunate if that became public during the trial. The threat was clear, but I felt no fear, only curiosity. What kind of information? The kind that might make you reconsider who the real criminal in this situation was. After she left, I called Mr. Peterson immediately. Helen, whatever they think they found, it doesn't change the facts of Emma and Tom's crimes. But could it affect the case? Possibly. If they can create enough confusion, make people doubt Carlos's character or business practices, it might influence a jury. I thought about Carlos, about our marriage, about all the secrets that might be hidden in 45 years of shared life. Mr. Peterson, I want to know everything about Carlos's business. Every deal, every partnership, every potential problem. Helen, are you sure? Sometimes the past is better left alone. The Miller family is threatening to ruin Carlos's memory to protect their criminal son. I'd rather know the truth first. That evening, I sat in Carlos's office, now my office, and began looking through his files carefully. Carlos had been incredibly organized, every document dated and filed perfectly. But as I dug deeper into his business records, I started finding things that didn't make complete sense. Payments to companies I'd never heard of, consulting fees that seemed too high, partnerships with businesses that seemed to exist only on paper. By midnight, I had discovered something that changed everything I thought I knew about my husband. The private investigator Mr. Peterson recommended was a sharp woman named Lisa Park, who specialized in business crimes. She spent 8 hours in Carlos's office, taking pictures of documents and building what she called the complete picture of my husband's restaurant empire. Mrs. Rodriguez, your husband was running a complex tax evasion scheme through his restaurants. We're talking about millions of dollars in unpaid taxes over the past 15 years. The news hit me like a physical blow. That's impossible. Carlos was the most honest man I knew. I'm sorry, but the evidence is very clear. He was hiding income, claiming false expenses, and using shell companies to avoid paying what he owed the government. I stared at the documents spread across Carlos's desk. Receipts for supplies never delivered, payroll records for employees who didn't exist, expense reports for equipment that was never purchased. How long has this been happening? Based on these records, at least 15 years, probably longer. 15 years. While I was planning family dinners and volunteering at church, my husband was cheating the government. Mrs. Rodriguez, there's more. The $10 million Carlos left Emma originally. That money came directly from hidden profits. If the IRS discovers this, they'll take everything as unpaid taxes and penalties. The room started spinning again. Everything. The house, the restaurants, all of it. Unless what? Lisa looked uncomfortable. Unless Emma and Tom's legal team already knows about this and plans to use it as leverage. If they report Carlos's tax evasion to the IRS, they might be able to negotiate reduced sentences in exchange for cooperation. My daughter and her husband weren't just thieves. They were holding a nuclear weapon over my head. What are my options? Legally, you could contact the IRS yourself, report the tax evasion voluntarily, and hope for leniency. You'd lose most of the money, but you might keep the house. And if I don't, Emma and Tom's lawyers will probably leak this information strategically. You'll lose everything anyway, but you'll also face potential charges for unknowingly benefiting from tax evasion. I thought about Patricia Miller's smug confidence, her certainty that I'd accept their settlement offer. They had known about Carlos's crimes all along. Lisa, how did they find out about this? Tom's a lawyer with experience in business crimes. He would have recognized the patterns in Carlos's financial records. The question is, what are they planning to do with this information? My phone rang. Emma's number. Mom, we need to meet tonight. There are things you need to know about Dad that change everything. Already know, Emma. Silence. Then, you know what? I know about the tax evasion. I know about the hidden money. I know that everything your father left us could be taken by the government. Mom, listen to me carefully. Tom's lawyers have been talking with the IRS. They're willing to help us renegotiate our situation. What kind of renegotiation? Tom gets reduced charges in exchange for providing information about Dad's tax crimes. You get to keep $5 million in the house. The rest goes to the government as back taxes. And you? The theft charges get reduced to a misdemeanor. We all walk away from this mess without going to prison. It was brilliant in a cruel way. Emma had turned my victory into her escape plan. Emma, you're asking me to help you profit from your crimes by using Dad's crimes. I'm asking you to be practical, Mom. The alternative is losing everything and potentially facing charges yourself as an accessory. I looked around Carlos's office, seeing it clearly for the first time. The expensive furniture, the rare books, the art collection, all of it purchased with money stolen from taxpayers. I need time to think. Mom, the IRS meeting is tomorrow morning. Tom's lawyer needs an answer tonight. After hanging up, I sat in the darkness of Carlos's office, surrounded by the evidence of his double life. 45 years of marriage to a tax cheat, a daughter who had inherited more than money from her father. She had inherited his talent for deception. But she had made one crucial mistake. She had underestimated who I was when my back was against the wall. I picked up the phone and called Lisa Park. Lisa, how quickly can you get me a meeting with the IRS? I have a story to tell them, and I think they're going to find it very interesting. IRS agent Michael Torres looked exactly like what you'd expect from a tax investigator. Serious, intelligent, and completely immune to sob stories. He sat across from me in Mr. Peterson's conference room, recording our conversation and taking notes with mechanical precision. Mrs. Rodriguez, you understand that by coming forward voluntarily, you're potentially admitting to benefiting from tax evasion. I understand, but I'd rather tell you the truth than let my daughter and her husband use this situation to escape punishment for their crimes. I explained everything. Carlos's hidden business practices, Emma's theft scheme, Tom's fake documents, and the blackmail attempt disguised as a settlement offer. Your daughter believes she can trade information about your husband's tax crimes for immunity from her own charges. That's exactly what she believes. And she thinks I'll cooperate because I'm afraid of losing everything. Agent Torres smiled for the first time. Are you afraid, Mrs. Rodriguez? Agent Torres, 2 weeks ago, I was a grieving widow sleeping in a cheap motel. Today, I'm sitting here voluntarily confessing to federal agents about my dead husband's tax crimes. Fear isn't my primary emotion anymore. What is? Anger. Pure, focused anger at being manipulated by people who thought I was too old and stupid to fight back. Agent Torres's smile widened. Mrs. Rodriguez, would you be willing to help us gather evidence? 4 hours later, I was sitting in my living room with a recording device hidden in my jacket, waiting for Emma and Tom to arrive for what they thought was a surrender meeting. They knocked at exactly 6 o'clock, both dressed like they were going to a business meeting. Tom carried a briefcase that probably contained immunity agreements and settlement papers. "Mom, you look more relaxed than you have in weeks," Emma said, hugging me like nothing had happened. "Feel more relaxed. Honesty has that effect on people." Tom opened his briefcase with the confidence of someone who had conducted similar negotiations before. "Helen, our attorneys have structured this very favorably for you. You keep the house, $5 million in clean assets, and complete immunity from any charges related to Carlos's tax issues." Clean assets. That's an interesting way to put it. Emma shot Tom a warning look. "Mom, the important thing is that we all move forward together. The past stays buried, and we all get to rebuild our lives. What about the $25 million Carlos actually left me?" "Mom, that money is tainted by Dad's tax evasion. It can't be separated from his illegal activities. Taking $5 million is the best outcome possible under the circumstances. And you too. What do you get from this arrangement?" Tom leaned forward, his confidence returning. "We get to put this unfortunate misunderstanding behind us. Emma's charges become a minor offense, my reputation stays intact, and our family can heal from this tragedy." Misunderstanding. He was still calling grand theft a misunderstanding. "Tom, help me understand something. When exactly did you discover Carlos's tax evasion?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, did you know about the hidden money when you married Emma? Or did you discover it recently when you were planning to steal my inheritance?" Tom and Emma looked at each other nervously. "Helen, I don't think that's relevant to our current discussion. Actually, I think it's very relevant because if you knew about Carlos's crimes and said nothing, that makes you an accessory after the fact. And if you only discovered them while committing your own crimes, that makes you remarkably unlucky." Emma's composure was starting to crack. "Mom, what are you trying to say?" "I'm saying that you two have been planning this for months, possibly years. The fake will, the tax evasion discovery, even Tom's connections to document forgers. None of this was accidental." "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" Agent Torres finds it quite believable. The blood drained from both their faces. "Agent Torres. IRS Criminal Investigation Division. He's been very interested in my story about systematic elder abuse, theft and tax fraud. Particularly the part where you tried to blackmail me with my dead husband's crimes." Tom stood up quickly, reaching for his briefcase. "Helen, this conversation is over." "Actually, Tom, I think it's just beginning." Agent Torres and 2 other federal agents entered my living room as Emma and Tom sat frozen in place. The briefcase Tom had been reaching for was immediately taken, along with both their phones. "Emma Rodriguez Miller and Tom Miller, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit tax fraud, elder abuse, and attempted extortion of a federal witness." Emma turned to me with a look of complete betrayal. "Mom, how could you do this to your own family? The same way you could create fake legal documents and steal my inheritance, sweetheart. Except my way helps the government recover stolen tax money." As the agents handcuffed them, Tom tried one last desperate move. "Helen, you don't understand what you've done. There are business associates of Carlos who won't appreciate federal attention. You've put yourself in real danger." Agent Torres paused. "Mr. Miller, are you threatening a federal witness?" "I'm warning her about the consequences of her choices." "The consequences," Agent Torres said, "is that you just added witness intimidation to your charges." After they were taken away, Agent Torres sat back down across from me. "Mrs. Rodriguez, Tom's warning might not be completely empty. Carlos's tax evasion involved some questionable business partners." "How questionable?" "The Delacroix crime syndicate, primarily. They've been using legitimate businesses to hide income for decades. Carlos's restaurants were one of their most successful operations. The name meant nothing to me, But Agent Torres's expression told me everything I needed to know. Are you saying I'm in actual physical danger? Potentially. But there's something else you should know about your husband's tax situation. Something that changes everything. Agent Torres pulled out a thick file folder, the kind that suggested months of investigation. Mrs. Rodriguez, your husband wasn't just evading taxes for the Delacroix family. He was working undercover for the IRS. The world tilted sideways again. Carlos was working for the IRS. Deep cover long-term investigation. The tax evasion was real, but it was sanctioned by federal agents as part of a larger operation to bring down the Delacroix organization. Your husband was helping us build cases against multiple criminal enterprises. But the money was real. The IRS allowed him to keep a percentage of the recovered funds as payment for his cooperation and to maintain his cover. Everything he left you was earned through legitimate federal work. I stared at him, trying to process this revelation. So the $25 million is legally mine. Your husband died before the investigation concluded, but his cooperation over 15 years directly led to 63 arrests and the recovery of over $300 million in unpaid taxes and criminal assets. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because the investigation was ongoing, and because we weren't certain about your involvement or knowledge. Your daughter and son-in-law's theft scheme actually helped us confirm your innocence. Emma and Tom didn't know any of this when they tried to blackmail me. They suspected tax evasion, but they had no idea about the federal cooperation. They were planning to extort you with information that would have actually proven Carlos was a hero. The irony was so perfect it was almost funny. Emma had tried to steal my inheritance twice, once through fraud and once through blackmail based on completely wrong information. Agent Torres, what happens now? Now you get your money back, your daughter and son-in-law face federal charges, and you get to decide what kind of life you want to build. The Delacroix organization will be too busy dealing with their own arrests to worry about you. We're executing search warrants across 4 states tomorrow morning. I looked around my living room, seeing it again as the place where I had reclaimed my life rather than lost it. Agent Torres, can I ask you something? Course. In your professional opinion, am I a terrible person for feeling satisfied about Emma's arrest? Agent Torres smiled. Mrs. Rodriguez, in my professional opinion, you're a woman who refused to be a victim. That's not terrible. That's admirable. 8 months later, I stood in the kitchen of my completely renovated house, making coffee for 2. The morning sun streamed through new windows that I had chosen myself, illuminating countertops that reflected my taste for the first time in 45 years. Good morning, Helen. Dr. Jennifer Kim, my new financial advisor and friend, appeared in the doorway carrying a thick folder of investment reports. Good morning, Jenny. Ready for our monthly review. The past 8 months had been a whirlwind of legal proceedings, media interviews, and personal growth. Emma and Tom were each serving 2-year federal sentences. The news coverage of their crimes had made me something of a celebrity in elder rights circles. Your investment portfolio is performing beautifully, Jenny said, settling at my new breakfast table. The Helen Rodriguez Foundation for Elder Justice is fully operational, and the scholarship fund has already helped its first students. The Helen Rodriguez Foundation for Elder Justice had become my life's mission. Using $15 million of my inheritance, we were funding legal aid for seniors facing family financial abuse and supporting new laws to strengthen elder protection. Any word on the Netflix series? Production starts next month. They want to call it Grandmother's Revenge, an American justice story. My story had attracted media attention far beyond the initial news coverage. The series would bring national awareness to elder abuse issues, with all proceeds going to senior advocacy organizations. What about Emma? Jenny's expression grew careful. She's written again. Her counselor says she wants to take responsibility and ask for genuine forgiveness. Emma had written me 23 letters from federal prison. I had read the first few, which ranged from self-pitying to desperate, before deciding to stop opening them. Some relationships, once shattered by betrayal, can't be fixed with words alone. Jenny, has my position on that changed? Not according to our previous discussions, but people do change, Helen. even people who've made terrible choices. I thought about the woman I had been 8 months ago. Grieving, dependent, willing to accept whatever scraps my family offered me. That woman might have felt obligated to forgive Emma, to rebuild a relationship based on guilt and obligation. But that woman was gone forever. Jenny, schedule a meeting with Emma's counselor. Not to reconcile but to make something clear. What kind of thing? I want Emma to understand that her actions had permanent consequences. I want her to know that she destroyed our relationship completely, and that her grandchildren will grow up knowing exactly why their mother went to prison. That sounds harsh, Helen. It's supposed to be harsh, Jenny. Emma made adult choices that destroyed people she claimed to love. She doesn't get to escape the emotional consequences just because she's attended some prison counseling sessions. Jenny made notes in her leather planner. What about the grandchildren? Emma's requested supervised visits with them when she's released. My relationship with Emma's children will be based on their choices when they're old enough to understand, not their mother's rehabilitation efforts. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see a delivery truck with several large packages. Must be the new easels for the art studio, I told Jenny. The art studio had been my favorite renovation project. Carlos's former office was now a bright, cheerful space where I was rediscovering my love of painting, something I had abandoned when I got married and took on the role of supporting wife and mother. Helen, can I ask you something personal? Of course, Jenny. Do you ever regret how everything played out? The prison sentences, the media attention, the permanent family break. I thought about the question while signing for my packages. 8 months ago, I had been invisible. A widow with no money, no home, and no future. Today, I was a millionaire activist with a foundation, a television series, and a purpose that reached far beyond my own survival. Jenny, my daughter, tried to steal everything I owned and leave me homeless. My son-in-law created fake documents and threatened me with blackmail. They showed me exactly who they were when they thought I was powerless to stop them. But they're still family. No, Jenny, they share my DNA. Family are the people who protect you when you're vulnerable, not the people who exploit your weakness for personal gain. Jenny closed her planner, satisfied with my response. Besides, I added, look what I accomplished when I stopped letting them define my worth. After Jenny left, I walked through my house, really my house now, decorated according to my taste, arranged around my priorities. In the art studio, I uncovered my latest painting, a portrait of a woman standing in bright sunshine, her face turned toward tomorrow. The woman in the painting looked nothing like the grieving widow who had packed her life into suitcases 8 months ago. This woman looked confident, independent, unafraid. She looked like someone who had learned that the best revenge isn't getting even. It's becoming everything your enemies never believed you could be. Outside, the sun was setting behind trees I had planted myself, in soil that belonged to me, on property I had defended through intelligence and determination rather than inherited through marriage or birth. Tomorrow, I would continue building the life I had chosen rather than the life others had planned for me. And if Emma wanted to rebuild a relationship with this woman, she would need to bring much more than prison letters and empty apologies. She would need to bring a complete transformation, one that matched my own. Thanks for watching Granny's Voice. Don't forget to subscribe and share your story in the comments below.